Hello, this is the Ramblings of an Undisciplined Mind podcast for Friday, June 17th, 2016. As of this recording, Sierra is still missing. Well, as you can tell, I am in the studio today, working from home, so not really planning on going anywhere, but thought I would record you an episode from the location. So I'm going to talk today. There's a new book out that I've actually already read. It just dropped today, but I've already read it. What? I'll tell you how I did that. It's not that big a deal, biggest secret, but it's a book written by Ballantine and T. Morris. And they are people that I have been following for years because they're also podcasters and they're also podcast authors. And so Pip started off with, she had Chasing the Bard. That was a big one for her. I can't remember if that was her first one. It might have been. And then the sequel, Digital Magic, followed that. And then she's also got her own deal for the Books of the Order, which was a really interesting series that was kind of like Knights versus Ghosts almost, but not medieval knights like we would think about it. It was a really interesting series. I enjoyed it. I think it went for like 4 books or something like that, and I've read them all. And then T. Morris was one of the first podcasters. He shares some fame with Scott Sigler in that, and I don't remember the distinction. One of them was like the first to podcast a novel, and I think that was Sigler, and maybe one of them was the first to like get it all done, or I don't remember. But he was, though Sigler and T are like, they're 1 and 2 as far as releasing a novel in an episodic format on podcasting. And his big thing was Moravia, which is really good, which I've listened to. And then he came out with a sequel to that. And so a number of years ago, T and Pip got together, and they have written the books that are called about the Ministry of Peculiar Occurrences, if I could say it. And they got a publishing deal for the first 4 books, I believe it was, and got reading them. And they're really good. So basically what it is a steampunk adventure. But you don't really have to be into steampunk. What's great about it is it's a great story, and it's steampunk in the sense that you've got it's taking place in Victorian England. So you've already got kind of that level of technology you got steam cars and you got locomotives and things of that nature. But now they've added a whole nother level of steampunkery, I guess you could say, in that they're dealing with supernatural forces. They're dealing with all these strange inventions by this guy named Tesla. So they're starting to get in with electricity and finding unique ways to use electricity, and they're also battling forces that want to take over the British Empire. So this is kind of like, it's in a sense, it's almost like Warehouse 13 in Victorian England. If you ever saw Warehouse 13, that was where they had this warehouse full of all these weird and unusual artifacts from history that might have magical powers or be supernaturally charged, or some other strangeness associated with them. And so their job was to go out and get it and bring it back to Warehouse 13 for safe storage. And it starts off that way with the series, in that you got 2 main characters. You got Eliza Braun, who is from New Zealand, surprisingly. So is Pip. And then you've got Wellington Books, who is from England, and no, T is not from England. He's from the U.S. But when they podcast it, he does Wellington's voice. And when the series started, Wellington was the archivist of the archives, and Eliza got put down there because she's gets a little too John McClane in certain situations and is blowing things up and shooting things indiscriminately. So the director put her down there as a punishment, and so she's off of field work, and she's down there. But of course, you can take the girl out of field work, but you can't take the field work out of the girl, kind of thing. And then she ends up pulling Wellington into it. So that's like the beginning. That's book one. And one of the things I've really enjoyed about these guys, and there's going to be some minor spoilers here on this book. So if you haven't read the series, I'm trying to give you a sense of the series, and go check it out. It's out there on ebook. It's probably out there in paperback for at least the first 4 books. So this book that is coming out today is called The Ghost Rebellion. This is book 5. And this was one they self-published. Because I think their publisher decided, well, it's had a good run, we're done. But they weren't done. Happily, they weren't done. And so they did a Kickstarter on it. And I supported it. Or me and the wife supported it, but I supported it. And it's probably the first Kickstarter I've supported, but I supported at the level where I got the ebook. Because I really enjoy these stories. They tell a good story. I mean, that's kind of the key. Yeah, you can get into the steampunkery stuff, and you do get into the steampunkery stuff. But if you don't have a good story around it, then it just kind of turns into a gadget discussion. And while there are gadgets and they do discuss them, it's the story that really, really drives it, and they use the gadgets well. So this book I got probably 3 weeks ago, I want to say. Because, Kickstarter backers, we got it first because we're special. And then the people that want a hardcover, I think have already got it because I think I saw a thing go out about it. But one of the things I really enjoy about their work is, yes, they're in Victorian England, so they're in a specific period of history, and they use it. So over the course of the 5 books, we've seen Queen Victoria. We've seen Thomas Edison. We've seen Tesla, I think. He certainly mentioned a lot. I think we've seen Tesla. I really need to read through them all. It's been a little while. I'm thinking at some point here, I'm gonna take a break from whatever I'm reading, and I'm gonna read back all the way through, because they're fun reads, and why not? And to kind of get brought back up. We've seen Dr. Jekyll. In fact, Dr. Jekyll features pretty heavily in this book. And who else have we seen? I know that we've seen other people, but they've also got some really big bad guys to fight. You got Dr. Jekyll, who's kind of a force unto himself. He was working with a guy called the Maestro in book 4. And now he's kind of on his own. And then you've got this organization that's kind of like, the Spectre for the Ministry of Peculiar Occurrence, which is the actual name of the organization that Wellington and Eliza work for. And it's called the House of Usher, which is just an awesome name. I love that name. So they're kind of the Spectre. They're trying to sow chaos wherever they can, and of course, the Ministry, along with Eliza and Wellington, are trying to stop it. And so in this case, we've got a couple of things going on in this book, and it's kind of interesting because one of the things they've always brought out is the notion of the British Empire and the attitudes within the British Empire, because Wellington is English. He's from England. And Eliza is not. She's from New Zealand, which is the Commonwealth. And there is, you could maybe say bigotry. There's certainly condescension, thank you, regarding, for those in the empire, toward those that are in the Commonwealth. You're kind of just this thing we tacked on to the empire. You're barely a citizen. Those kind of attitudes. And people will hear her talk in a New Zealand accent, and they go, "Oh, you're from the Commonwealth," and you get some of that. Well, in this one, they kind of extend that further because they're still chasing Dr. Henry Jekyll from book 4, and they get led by him. They realize that they aren't going to find him in Europe. He went to India. So the two of them go to India. And that even gets it further because, as the title suggests, there is a rebellion going on. They don't want to be part of the empire. They're India. They want to be independent. They don't want to be part of Britain at all. And so you get some really interesting political insights there as far as, you've got Eliza who's in the Commonwealth, but is generally happy to be a British citizen and happy to be working for the Ministry for Queen and Country. And then you go to India, and there are a large, not everybody, but there's a definitive group of people that are not happy to be part of Queen and want their own darn country. And so they pull that out really good. And also, the other thing that makes it fun is there's a couple of characters, Brandon Hill and Bruce Campbell, that are also agents of the ministry. And so they were able to, some of the action shifts to them, and they end up going to Russia. So you actually got to see a couple different areas. So you got to see Tsarist Russia, I think it was, a little bit there. And then you've also got to see... colonial India in the time of British occupation. And so it's a really interesting story. All the while, Eliza and Wellington are trying to find Henry Jekyll because he's developed this serum that, turns you into Mr. Hyde. But imagine that, kind of like you turn into the Hulk, but you got your smarts now. He's kind of refined it a bit, and he's spreading it. And so he's a big, big danger. And then he's also kind of falling in with the people in India that are trying to throw the British government out. So it makes for some fun reading. They are really fun stories. I've always enjoyed it. I enjoyed this one quite a bit. I'm hoping there's a number 6. If there's a Kickstarter, I'll be backing it. But go check it out. It is available on the Kindle store for $4.99. I'm not sure I don't know if they're doing hardcovers or not, in all honesty, or if it's just ebook. Obviously, hardcovers would probably be, or some sort of paper format would probably be more, but it's worth the $4.99, I think. And if you haven't read them, don't start here, because the good thing about it, each book is self-contained. There is a set story and a set resolution for that story, but they are also linked. Like this one flows out of, everything that's come before it, but each book kind of stands on its own, and that's what's nice. There's no cliffhangers really going on here. There are things that are unresolved and things we're learning about the two main characters in bits and bits and bits, and we learn some cool stuff about Wellington in this one. But the story of each book is self-contained, and so it's bringing you into this universe that gets wider and wider and wider, story by story by story. And I find it to be a really fun time. So if you haven't checked it out, that's my recommendation for you for today. 5 books worth of reading. I think you'll like it. If you do try it out and you like it, or if you don't like it, leave me a comment on this episode and let me know what you thought. Or if you've read them before, leave me a comment and let me know what you thought. And that'll get on the comments show. The next one I do will be comments 4, I think. So anyway, I think that'll be that for today. I will be back tomorrow. I'll be talking to you then. So be seeing you.